Hello and welcome to Lately Fashionable. How fun is this blouse? And that's not rhetorical. I want you to tell me how much you love this blouse because look at it. And if you don't like it, no, that's impossible. Look at it. This video is a year in the making, almost exactly. I am filming this a year to the day before I cut out the blouse in the first place. And this video is going to be a little different. I changed recording and editing styles like 3 times over the life of this project, so it might be a little disjointed. I'm going to try to get it to flow smoothly in the editing, but I make no promises. Like I said, I cut it out last February and then didn't actually start sewing it until October. And then it needed a timeout in the naughty corner for 2.5 months. And I finally finished it last month. And now I'm trying to finish the video so that you get to see it. So we're going to start off by going back in time to February of 2024. And this was after I had started sewing my vintage wardrobe, but before I had switched to doing vlog style videos where I just showed what I was working on in a 2-week span. And I did film cutting out this blouse, but I didn't do any talking to the camera. I think I was sick at the time and my voice wasn't good and I didn't feel up to being on camera. So I think I was planning on adding voiceover later to explain what I was doing. So I will attempt to do that now. Let's see how much I remember. This pattern's tissue paper was quite brittle from age, and it had several small tears and holes that needed to be repaired before I could use it without damaging it further. I'll link the archival tape I used in the description. I had originally hoped to get 2 blouses made from this fabric, but since the sleeves I chose took up about 1/3 of my available yardage, that was not going to be possible. So I decided to use the scraps to make a couple of removable collars to add to the necklines of dresses or sweaters to change up the look. I chose 2 patterns with distinct collars, cut them out and set them aside. I have yet to do anything with them. To avoid damaging the delicate tissue paper, I used pattern weights in the form of a small collection of foreign coins instead of pins. Most of the pieces were cut on the fold, but since I was doing the view with the front hidden button fly, those pieces needed to be cut single layer. Some pieces of this pattern had previously been used, but a few still had the excess tissue around them. The instructions say to cut between the printed lines, so that's what I did. And then, like I said, I didn't work on it until October. I initially got distracted with other projects that were just more urgent, and then it was summer and it was so hot the whole summer. I was not interested in working on anything with long sleeves. So it was on the back burner for several months. I finally picked it back up in October, mainly because I had just made the plaid circle skirt and I really wanted to wear this blouse with the circle skirt. I thought that would be a really cute outfit. And like I said, I had changed to a vlog style of video making in the meantime. So here is that segment of the October vlog. Just kidding, I'm going to summarize that segment with a voiceover because this video is getting quite long. Basically, I had not checked the size before I cut it out, and it was going to be way too small. I did what I could to make the seam allowances smaller, but that was not enough. So I dug out my scraps, because I save everything, and added width to the back by turning it into a yoked back with an extra panel pieced in, attempting to disguise the piecing with a box pleat. I had hoped to finish it in time to wear with my new plaid circle skirt to the pumpkin patch with my husband and kids, but I got as far as starting to make the sleeves before I gave up on that dream around 2 a.m. the night before and set the project aside. Now, like I said, I did come back to working on it in January as a procrastination tool. I was working on my new winter coat, and I kind of hit a point where I was stuck and I needed to get myself unstuck, and sometimes the best way to do that is to put that project aside and work on something else. So I did pick up this blouse to finish, but first, a sneaky little bonus project, I made myself a dickey. Okay, so I'm currently stuck on my long-term, somewhat large-scale, difficult project, and I need something to finish quickly and give me a win. And I've decided I'm going to take this shirt that I bought on ThreadUp, not sponsored, that was too small, but it was a final sale so I couldn't return it, and I'm going to make it into a removable collar dickey situation. So here's the shirt in question, and while it is a size large, I think that's in like juniors, not misses. Anyway, it's too small, but I think that's fine because the collar is not meant to button at the top anyway. So the first order of business is going to be remove these buttons. I don't like them, and I don't think that they will give a vintage vibe. I'm also going to remove this pocket, and then I will cut away the sides of the shirt and make it a little dickey. I also removed the back of the shirt below the yoke, but I have no decent footage of that. Then it was a simple matter of hemming the cut edge, which I did rather quickly and inelegantly. It pressed out decently enough, though. And finally, I sewed on new buttons, which I probably did not need to bother with, as they will likely always be covered by whatever I'm wearing over it. Oh well. Okay, this totally worked. I think it's really cute, and now my neck is warmer, so winning all around. It was so fast and satisfying. Yeah, I'm really happy with this project. And it's not popping out in the back like I feared it might. Yeah, so that was quick and easy, and I can highly recommend if you have any blouses or tops with a collar that you no longer wear for whatever reason, turn it into a dickey. Why not? And as soon as I finished that little diversion, I was refreshed and rejuvenated and ready to tackle this project again. Plus, I had been brainstorming in the interim and come up with a way to make the blouse fit me better. I am finally ready to finish this blouse. It has been in the naughty corner for several months, but I think I finally know how I want to fix it. And I'm going to start by taking it apart at the side seams. I actually have more usable scraps left over than I thought I did, partly because neither of these were long enough to get a full back, which was what I was hoping to do, add an extra panel. And then I ended up doing the yoke back, so I used the largest scrap I had for that. But now, I think I also want to piece in a couple of basically tapered panels or godets at the side seams. And I'm also going to take out the dart because I do not think it is at all necessary or helpful to have. I think it ended up in a really weird place and I don't like the way it looks. so I'm just going to get rid of it entirely. Now this does require taking apart flat felt seams, which I had said I wasn't going to do, but with enough distance, I have decided that is exactly what I'm going to do, and I will feel better for it. Alright, I've got my side seams picked apart and pressed, and I'm just kind of winging this. I'm going for a triangular shape, and now that I've taken the dart out of the front, it's going to be longer than the back, but I'm just going to curve the bottom of the godet to match up both ends and make it work. Look who just won bobbin chicken without trying. I made my flat felt seams much more carefully this time around. I also managed to make them much narrower, which makes me happy. This fabric does not like to hold a crease, which is part of what makes me think it is actually polyester, not rayon. It is really nice fabric, but it does not behave like a natural fiber. In order to get the flat felt seams pinned properly, I had to pin the fabric on either side to my sleeve board, pulling it taut away from the stitching line. This was tedious, but produced much better results. Okay, this definitely feels a lot more comfortable, and I think it looks like it's fitting better. I don't think it's too awkward having those pieces set in at the sides. Although I did make the seams much smaller on these flat felt seams. Now that the side seams were neater and narrower, I wanted to redo the back seams, which had come out rather bulky the first time around. Since I was now making the fit better, I no longer wanted to hide the blouse's issues by wearing a vest over it all the time, which is what I'd been thinking about doing since October. So I unpicked even more flat felt seams, because I might as well make it the best that I can do. I did decide to go back and redo all of the flat felt seams except the shoulder seams, because I had already attached the collar and I don't want to redo that. And I'm much happier with how they look. The seams are much narrower and much neater than they were before. They're not perfect, but this was always going to be a homemade garment, and I'm fine with that. It's going to be good. I am much happier with this seam in particular. I did a much better job of both centering the box pleat on the center and of keeping my stitching relatively even across the bulky part of the seam there. And you can see how much narrower the seams are than they were before. Now all I have to do is attach the cuffs to the sleeves, attach the sleeves to the blouse, hem it, and add the buttons. I'm almost done. I'm going to start with the hem. First I need to even this out because of taking out the front dart made the front side longer than the back side. So let's just fix that real quick. Like I said, pressing this fabric was a pain because it does not like holding a crease. I finally got out my tailor's board, which gives a nice flat surface to press against, even inside corners. I'm really taking my time with the sleeves on this blouse because I want them to be absolutely perfect. After all, this pattern is all about the sleeves. Oh, I love it so much. Yes, this is what I wanted. Oh, I can't. I'm gonna have so much fun with these sleeves. I don't want to take it off. At least one aspect of this blouse is going smoothly, and I'm glad it's the sleeves. So I did go ahead and bring down the bottom of the armscye. I cut off about this much, well, exactly this much. And that had the added effect of making the sleeve fit perfectly, which is exactly what I wanted. Just eased in, and this is exactly what I was going for, that smooth line across the shoulder. It's interesting because this sleeve has some gathers shown on the pattern, but this one is just absolutely fitting like a glove. So now I am going to flat fill this seam, just like all of the others. And then I just have a bit of hand sewing to do, tack the inside of the cuff, add the buttons and buttonholes, and she's done! Now you may be thinking that flat filled seams, by their nature, need to lay flat, and arm size, by their nature, are curves, and it would be difficult if not impossible to do a flat felt seam on an arm size seam. Difficult? Yes. Impossible? No. I have done it before, and I'm going to show you how. One important thing, actually maybe the most important thing, is to make sure you are trimming the correct side of the seam allowance. The flat felt seam needs to go up onto the shoulder. It cannot go out onto the sleeve. So that means I need to trim down the seam allowance of the body of the blouse. And then the sleeve seam allowance will get folded over it, encasing that raw edge and getting stitched down to the body. So I'm trimming away about half the seam allowance. A little more than half, actually. I want to keep it nice and smooth. And make sure you don't cut the sleeve. Now we need to clip into the curve on both pieces, but we're only going to clip halfway on the sleeve seam allowance. My camera refused to focus on this for some reason, but I staggered my clips from one seam allowance to the other. Now this is going to take a lot of pins. We want to get the smoothest line possible as we fold over the sleeve seam allowance and pin it to the body of the blouse. Now I was being helped here by the fact that my fabric has some stretch to it. I think there is some spandex content to my polyester masquerading as rayon, but I have also done this technique successfully on fabric with no stretch. It just takes some practice, a lot of patience, and very careful pinning. As we get up onto the shoulder, we have the opposite curve problem. So now we need to ease the excess of the sleeve head so that it lies smoothly across the shoulder with no tucks in the material. You can see that I have once again employed my pins to keep the fabric taut on either side of the seam. With the curve of the armscye, I needed to work in smaller sections as I can only smooth so much of the fabric at a time. Working in these small sections, I find it helpful to smooth one spot, then go half the distance between it and the next pin, and keep smoothing in between pin sections until the space between them disappears. It's also helpful to use a pin to smooth the fabric underneath the folded edge. This is a very fiddly and time-consuming process, but if I take the time to do it correctly the first time, I won't need to do it a second time. As for sewing technique, the trick is to go as slowly and methodically as possible. I always start end-end with the underarm seam whenever I'm doing anything related to sleeves. You want to smooth everything underneath with your fingers as it's going under the needle. Anytime I'm going over a seam or particularly bulky area, I'm going to use the flywheel to turn the needle and do one stitch at a time. That way I won't have to worry about the feed dogs getting caught and holding on to that bulky spot and doing a bunch of stitches in a row. What happened here? And of course, small adjustments need to be made on the fly. Yes, I am happy with that. I have No words. Oh, I love it. The sleeves are going to be so much fun. They fit really well. It feels nice. It's not tight around my arm. I really like the collar too. It's a moment. I am really glad I went back and added these triangles here at the side. I should tuck it in to the skirt and see how that looks. Let's do that. Yeah, that'll do. Oh, these sleeves. Oh! This is going to be so much fun. I chose not to do the bound buttonholes that the instructions recommended because I knew from experience that holding a crease is crucial for nicely finished bound buttonholes. And I did not want to fight with this fabric any more than I already had, so I just did regular machine buttonholes, and they turned out fine. Okay, I have a finished blouse. I have a couple little tweaks to make, and then it will be fully done, but it's wearable at the moment. I'm supposed to add a little thread button loop and a button here. So I just have it pinned right now because it looks really dumb open. I'm not sure if the overlap is supposed to be like that or more like that. But that second way is a lot more comfortable, so that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. It's impossible to tell on the pattern envelope because the model in the illustration is wearing a little bow tie tied under the collar, which I think would be cute. I will probably also frequently wear a brooch there because I like brooches. The other small thing is not part of the instructions, but I should have interfaced the cuffs, and I did think about it at the time. If I just leave them, they are kind of floppy and wrinkly, so what I have been doing instead is pulling them up so that they're snug on my arm, but then of course I've got the gap at the top of the cuff, so I want to put a snap there just to hold that in place. Maybe a hook and eye. Otherwise, I'm quite happy with it. It's comfortable. I think it looks really good. You can't even really see my side seam extensions there, so I'm quite pleased with that. This is what the back is doing. I actually pinned the two sides of the box pleat together at the waist when I put it on. Excuse you. And I do like how that looks, so I am going to tack that together, and it will still have some give where I need it, but I don't need it at the waist. Actually, if I let the collar hang like open, no, that's very 70s. I don't like that. But I do really like the sleeves. The sleeves are a whole moment. I'm gonna be playing with them constantly. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. And I was right, it does look amazing with this skirt. I don't really have enough space in here to twirl, but since when has that stopped me? I'm just hitting the tripod with my skirt. Okay, blouse done. Yay! And ta-da! It's finally done. How do we like it with a vest, by the way? This was the other outfit I was most looking forward to wearing. I did go back and put this button at the collar, and that really helps hold it together. I did also put hooks and eyes at the bottom of the wrist slit. And you may have noticed, because I certainly did the first time I put it on after I finished the buttons and buttonholes on the cuffs, I put the sleeves on backwards. If you look at the pattern envelope, you can clearly see the way the cuffs are supposed to lay, and it is not this. You're not supposed to have that flap showing, at least not on the front of the arm. So how did I make this mistake? Well, here again was another issue of having cut out the blouse months before I actually started sewing on it, and in this instance I was trusting myself to have marked it properly. What I typically do is mark the notches on the sleeve, 1 notch for the front and 2 notches for the back, because that's what I'm used to on modern patterns. And usually that does line up correctly with the arm's eye. The front will have 1 notch and the back will have 2. On this pattern, I went back and looked. The front has 2 notches and the back has 1. But I didn't mark the notches on the actual blouse pieces. I only marked them on the sleeve, trusting that they would be correct. And then I didn't double check them before I put the sleeves on. And I did the buttons and buttonholes last, so I wasn't really noticing how the cuff was overlapping until it was too late. I had already done the buttons and buttonholes, I had already attached the sleeves, and I had already done flat felled seams. So I am eventually going to go back and put the sleeves on the right way around. And I think that will actually help with the sleeves laying properly, because right now they're backwards, so they have all this extra fullness in the front that should be at the back where the elbow is. At least that's my theory. So they kind of bunch up and they don't really hang right. I'm gonna fix it, just not for this video. I'll come back and show it off as a bonus in a future video when I have fixed it, and I'm sure it will be better. I also might put in some very, very subtle shoulder pads. Maybe just make them out of interfacing, because the fabric, as you can see, has a bit of sheerness to it, and anything I put under will show. But I think if I just do some very, very small interfacing shoulder pads, it will work. In the meantime, this blouse is really fun to wear. I do have to keep pulling the cuffs up, because if they are not tight around my lower arm, they do just kind of droop down, and that does not look very good. But other than that, I am very happy with it. The fabric is so lovely. It feels nice. I think it looks really nice. It has the swishy kind of sound. I really like the collar. I really like the dramatic sleeves. It's just fun, and I love it. And other than putting the sleeves on backwards, I think it's perfect. I really like how these good days turned out. I think they're very subtle. You can't really see them when my arms are at my sides. And the extra volume in the back also, I think, looks intentional. And I like how it looks tucked into my skirt. So all in all, I'm really happy with it. I will probably make this pattern again, but if I do, I will size it up first. As always, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give me a like, and if you want to see more, definitely subscribe. And I will see you soon with another project. Bye! Gusset, Godot, no, not Godot, and sorry, I thought I saw a spider. What have I done to myself? And yes, I did tie a half Windsor in this little ribbon. Isn't that adorable?